I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. I said, hey, hey, welcome to the Man Cave Happy Hour. We're gonna drink a fine whiskey and smoke a really fine cigar.
It is time for Happy Hour. It is the Man Cave Happy Hour. Whiskey, cigars, spirits, and the stories that go along with it. I'm Jamie Flanagan.
I am the stripper. I am Matt Fox. I'm over here taking off my sweater.
Matt, it's been a long, strange trip, man.
2
years running.
2 years running. We started this
4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
We're, 100 and some teen episodes into?
But we're into March 638th of the COVIDian timeline.
Hey, you know what? My favorite phrase, the COVIDian timeline.
Right.
We are definitely living in the COVIDian timeline.
And as we launched the COVID deal,
we launched it. Was it our fault?
600 days earlier this March. Because it was March 2 years ago.
2020. Where were you on March of 2020? Do you remember?
I was trying to help this bourbon brand launch their Michigan project, and we were going to have some fun.
Yeah.
We were going to do this big party downtown Detroit at the Detroit Shipping Company.
Yeah, big tasting.
And all this stuff. And we met some really cool people.
Yeah.
And they had a pretty cool product from a really amazing person as their namesake.
Yes.
The Joe Louis Bourbon. If people are watching the video, they see the bottle.
Yes, they do.
Up there, the amazing packaging. The bottle, which has been used and abused by me. But yeah, it's so we did we were going to, and then the world shut down. And so we started doing these really fun cocktail hours with the folks at Joe Louis Bourbon and just all kinds of stuff, all the first 6 to 8 months of
COVID.
And we just kept going and maintained our friendships.
It was every Tuesday at 5 o'clock is when we would come together.
Yeah.
And we would do a 5 o'clock Tuesday tasting.
So COVID is over and everything's right with the world.
Yeah, actually, it went back to normal this week, as a matter of fact.
That was it. So they figured 2 years would be too much. It's 1 year and 50 weeks. And, hey, we're back to nothing like World War III to get your mind off a pandemic.
Oh, you said it. You said that. No, so here's the thing. If you were to go to the pour away. If you were to go to the Joe Louis Bourbon webpage, and you go to events and you go to community, you're going to find all of the Man Cave Happy Hour episodes that we did. The videos that we did, we were on your back porch.
Very modestly.
You have a very big deck, so you're aware.
I do.
And we just had a lot of fun with the Joe Louis Bourbon. We brought our friends in. We made cocktails with Joe Louis Bourbon. You became an amazing bartender yourself.
We did. We had some fun doing that, for sure.
With some mixologists going on in there. But things have moved and progressed with Joe Louis Bourbon.
Over 2 years, things change within the world.
Change is inevitable.
And within a company.
Yeah.
One thing that hasn't changed.
What's that?
So far is the juice inside the bottle.
That's correct.
But we want to find out what's going on now with Joe Louis Bourbon, because we haven't had a really deep dive of a discussion about Joe in just a red-hot minute.
Yes.
We actually, we got to hang out with Joe Louis.
Yeah.
Joe Louis
Barrow Jr.
the third.
Yeah.
We got to hang out with him as he launched a restaurant
here in downtown Detroit. Yes.
Him and Sonny is his buddy, his partner.
I think it was Sonny. Yeah.
Sonny. I'm awful.
The food was amazing.
So if you're ever in the Metro Detroit area, it's the first of the Joe Louis Southern Kitchens.
Yes.
And so that happened.
I still have dreams about the turkey leg.
I know. But we want to find out what's going on with Joe Louis Bourbon, the Bourbon brand. And to do so, we got to talk to one of the people who knows what's going on over there.
The ins and outs. Yes,
that's right. Tanya Cole is one of the people who's on the push for Joe Louis right now, just making it happen and bringing it to new places, and as the bourbon turns.
Yes.
Tanya, welcome back to the Man Cave.
Thanks for having me. My goodness.
So
you guys are both far too kind.
Thank you. Yeah, we're having fun. It's I mean, that's the whole point of the Man Cave. Just have some fun and learn a little bit along the way. So Tanya, Joe Louis Bourbon first launched in 1952, I do believe, 1952.
Correct.
It went for a couple of years, and then the brand went away. Don't call it a comeback. 2 years ago, like we were saying, timed very well with the beginning of the pandemic.
Yes.
The brand was relaunched with the family in tow. Jojo and his brother and some of the other family members were integral in making it happen and having Joe's likeness and name used.
Correct.
But Tanya, where have we gone from? Because if people go back and hear those old episodes, they can get all that information. Where have we gone since the launch 2 years ago and to where we are today? What's shifted so far?
It's shifted. So, well, we've got some new ownership now with the brand, and a lot of the core team is still in place. So what really has shifted is that the doors have opened really for us to do a bit more marketing and getting the product out there.
Awesome. Because the world's opening up.
Even, and I know you guys said that COVID is over. I guess,
it is.
I'm kind of happy to hear that it's a little bit less COVID-icious. But
did you not get the memo? It's over.
Did you say COVID-icious? Is that what I heard you say?
COVID-licious.
COVID-licious. Okay.
I like that. So.
I wish I could say that. But so Tara is down there making lots of moves down there in Kentucky. Getting it into liquor stores, getting it into restaurants, getting it into dive bars. And so we're looking for some further expansion in Michigan, Kansas, Mississippi, and Maine as well. And so we're looking very forward to that. And also looking forward to seeing more people with glasses of Joe in their hand.
Right.
So,
There you are.
appreciate that very much. So we're pleased to see that as well.
So
we're also getting the Making of Champions back up and going. We did take a break from that as well. So we are looking forward to seeing what you guys are also doing on your end with Man Cave Happy Hour and podcast as well. So.
Yeah. So you just mentioned Making of Champions. That is a podcast that you are a host of. That is actually sponsored by Joe Louis Bourbon. Is that correct?
It is correct.
And you bring in up and coming boxers, folks that have been in the industry, the boxing industry, for a very long time, and you get their story at the same time and understand what their passion lies and helping them launch their career, if you will. Is that correct?
That is correct. With these stories, we're finding out that it's a lot more than just about boxing. Our guests have had dynamic stories to share with us, and in a lot of ways parallel the life challenges and triumphs of Joe Louis. So it's been an honor really to hear all of these stories. I'm just kind of a mediator for that with the podcast. As you know, most of our guests can hold their own sharing their stories.
Yes, they can. They are great storytellers. But you yourself, you're a great storyteller as well. And you do a lot of things as a brand ambassador of Joe Louis Bourbon. You also have something of storytelling in your background, too. Is that correct?
I'm an educator by profession. And so, you do have to have a bit of that skill in order to maintain anyone's attention for any period of time. So that's a helpful tool to have sort of in your toolkit, if you will.
Great.
So that we don't have anarchy in the classroom. But sharing Joe's story and sharing in particular Joe Louis Bourbon's story has been intriguing, to say the least, because one would initially just think that Joe Louis is a boxer and that's about it. But few of us know that he was basically an excellent equestrian, could have competed in the Kentucky Derby probably if he wanted to.
If he was
that's one big jockey.
Yeah, if he was a few inches shorter, maybe. Yeah,
had his own stables and had his own farm, and then also played golf extremely well. Played for the PGA. So we give him credit for boxing, but we don't necessarily give him as much credit in these other avenues where he also excelled.
Right. One of my favorite stories of him growing up was him, telling his mom that he was taking, what was it, violin lessons?
Yeah.
But instead he was using the money for the violin lessons to go and pay for his boxing classes instead, growing up. It's one of my favorite stories of Joe Louis. It's like, what? We're all kids at one point in time. We're going to do things, and you just never know that's going to happen to your life after the fact. So
I'm throwing things up on the screen.
Oh, there you are. Yeah,
I was trying to invoke Joe and his violin.
Right.
That's him training for a fight. I have a picture of Joe with his violin.
I think you do.
I swear that I do.
Yeah.
Him and his mom.
So, Tanya, as a Joe Louis Bourbon ambassador, where are some of the focuses going to be over the next couple of years? Because you're, under new ownership, relaunching, I guess, if you can, for lack of a better term. What is it that we're going to be seeing from the Joe Louis Bourbon conglomerate brand over the next couple of years?
Right. So, I think right now we are doing some short range planning in addition to the long range planning, but of course, getting the bourbon out there, but also getting some more products out there in terms of expanding the portfolio for Joe Louis Bourbon. While I can't give you those specifics related to that, be on the lookout for what those products would be on that product line.
Is it going to be new juices potentially? Is that where we're kind of going down?
Possibly be some new nectar.
New nectar. Say. All right.
It's going to be pretty good.
Excellent.
And of course, Joe Louis is excellent in its own right. We're also doing quite a bit of analysis just to see how Joe Louis compares to other brands as well.
Sure.
Just to see how we can market that. So maybe it could match up to some of your favorite bourbons in your collection. Maybe it's something you need to explore. So we recently had a review done by Philip Clark, who is, I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's with Average Joe Bourbon. He has a blog.
Okay.
And he does reviews. And so he definitely gave it an Average Joe Bourbon approved. And so we are looking forward to hearing more from those that have reviewed the bourbon.
Okay.
Fred Minnick also reviewed it. But we want to get it in your hands so that you can review it as well and to give us feedback, not only on the website, but on the Joe Louis Bourbon Facebook page, on Instagram, and on Twitter as well.
All right, so I'm not going to lie. I've had Joe Louis Bourbon a number of times over the past couple of years, and something that and something that you always are reminiscent of, and something you go back to with your palate is it's very corn forward, and it continues to still be that same corn forward feel. So if you want to change up your palate a little bit and try to see what that corn's going to taste like, Joe Louis Bourbon's a great way to test your palate every single time you have a nip, if you will. So that's one of the reasons why I like to go back to it, is because it's going to accentuate that corn forwardness, but it still has that bourbon feel of that caramel, that vanilla feel that you get from any bourbon out there. But it's a great corn forward bourbon at the same time.
It most definitely is. It's also one that's just quite easy on the palate, and it's quite versatile. So for those drinkers that are new to bourbon, it's not one that's going to burn your throat. It's not going to hurt you in that regard. Right. It's a good introduction to bourbon as well. Right. And for those of us that have been at it for a while, it's just something that's great as an everyday sipper.
Yeah.
It's great in cocktails. It's great to cook with. Not that you necessarily want to do that. Bourbon,
okay, fair enough.
It's great to cook with as well.
Have you cooked any?
I find it to be one of my most versatile bourbons. In my about 150 bottle.
What is it that you've cooked with Joe?
Yeah, have
bourbon?
you cooked anything with using Joe and a bourbon in the recipe?
I've made anything from pound cakes to bread puddings to
nice. It's a boozy bread pudding.
So I've got some upstairs. So it's versatile. I do actually, but it's versatile in that regard. But I do prefer to just have it as is.
Yeah.
Neat.
On your Instagram page, you post, you're having meals or what have you. You do post, a lot of stuff on your Instagram, and you have posted a few meals that you have had. But bread pudding with bourbon in it, that's a boozy bread pudding. That sounds
It is.
so
It's
much
like
fun.
kind of a boozy, bougie one.
Bougie.
And that's the
But yeah,
versatility. And the
but bourbon's my
versatility.
first love. Food is my second, if you haven't noticed.
I have. And the versatility of the Joe Louis bourbon, like you said, it mixes super well. With cooking, I had no idea that you've cooked with Joe Louis bourbon personally. It just but for me, I just like to drink it myself.
So I mean, as far as the cooking with spirits goes,
yeah.
I'm usually cooking with spirits. As is happening, there's usually an old fashioned or a Manhattan hanging around somewhere nearby.
Right.
But I haven't used spirits in. I have now Guinness stew. I've done my stews.
Okay.
Which are very Guinness based, but I haven't done spirits, and I got to try that. And I'm thinking. Because I'm a grill master.
You have a grill master.
I love grilling. I love grilling, and I think I might experiment a little bit with some barbecue sauces and adding some zip to it.
I know you're having company on Saturday night, Jamie, so you might as well start giving it a shot at that point.
I think so.
Is that company you, Matt?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's the plan.
Yeah, that's the plan.
I'm all the way down here in Atlanta. I get left out of everything.
Road trip. Just saying,
That's
Tanya.
true. That's true.
Jamie's got a big deck with a grill on it. Apparently,
it is.
There's a jacuzzi there too.
Oh, there is. There is. We are ready for a party at a moment's notice. Talking about but we were talking about the making of champions and just how it all honors Joe's tradition,
right?
And it is founded on boxing, but it goes so much further than that. So I know when Joe started, we started the conversation 2 years ago. A big part of the mission was philanthropy and helping with boxing and contributing to boxing. Boxing events have come and gone and changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But what is Joe doing as far as the philanthropies right now? Because I know it was like, I don't want to say, was it $2 a bottle, $1 a bottle? There was something that was going. What's going on now with the philanthropies?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and so the team is evaluating that. I think right now our strongest impact is with the making of champions and connecting boxers, both from the professional and the amateur world. We do hope to get down there to Tulsa and to get on location and other sites to see the boxers in person, which we think that'll open up fairly soon, being that we can get around a bit more. And so we're wanting to get those faces out, those stories out, so that we can connect boxers on a wider level.
Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And then, part of, and again, it's part of the keeping the boxing alive and keeping the name alive and the mission and the goodwill in the communities. And JoJo did that, and we, like Matt and I, here's our ugly mugs. We were at there. That was the night of the opening there. With JoJo and his partner here in Detroit, at the opening of the Joe Louis Southern Kitchen.
Yes, it was.
And again to go back to that, it's a really great homage to
his mom, where he grew up.
And it's not. I mean, there's some boxing knickknacks here and there.
Yeah.
But it's really, you feel, and it's like these. If no one's been there, if you haven't been there yet, it's really neat. They have like wall size,
murals,
photos blown up wall size. So it's like and there's like a front porch. Part of the decor looks like a front porch. So you feel like you're sitting on Joe's front porch, looking out around the neighborhood, and it's really it's quaint. It's not overdone. It's neat, and then there's some boxing memorabilia in there too. Really, just keeping it all going. JoJo and the family and his partner there, they did a really great job representing that well. Tanya, you got to come up to the city now that, like we said, we declared earlier, Matt and I just decided COVID was over. So,
right. I think there was an event just there a few weeks ago, right?
There was. It was. It's Black History Month, and they were celebrating. Whiskey business. Yeah. There was a whiskey business thing, but it was Black History Month,
right?
And the Detroit Pistons were celebrating different pivotal Black Americans, and they honored Joe Louis, and so they did a big thing at the restaurant, and then a big thing like two or three nights worth at the Pistons games at Little Caesars Arena here downtown Detroit.
They actually made apparel, like shirts and such, with Joe Louis on the Pistons apparel itself.
Right. And I think there is actually a product line out right now in partnership with the Detroit Pistons and a company there that's local to you all. And I think that there are 5 items that you can go online and purchase.
Yeah, there are.
Joe Louis.
And then, if you happen to find yourself at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, there's a gift shop. There's a section of the shop dedicated to that as well there. And again, it's all part of keeping that legacy alive. The message and the mission. Joe had a rough go of it because he was too darn generous. It's like, honestly, he got himself in trouble because he gave money away, and that was part of caused a little bit of trouble. It was like, crap. I was too generous. Right. Can you ever be too generous? But
Detroit continues to honor the legacy of Joe Louis. Yep. And there's a new. They're still building out, constructing that Riverwalk.
Yes.
Right.
Joe Louis cut.
Yep, along the Detroit River. So it's a couple mile long walk along the Detroit River, named after Joe Louis itself. So Detroit will continue to celebrate the legacy of Joe Louis, and we can continue to celebrate the legacy and get the Joe Louis brand out there and just the story out there as well. Right. Because this was a bourbon that Joe Louis tried to start back in the 60s,
50s,
in the 50s even. And bringing it back and doing, because the whole bourbon industry has really taken a major turn for the good across the entire country, across the world even, because we interviewed folks out of Israel that had the first whiskey distillery out of Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
So whiskey and bourbon have been really taking over, if you will, and for Joe Louis and the family to continue to want to share his story and keep that legacy alive, it's amazing. So what you do on a daily basis, Tanya, what are some of the things that you want to share with individuals out there that are listening to the podcast today? What are some of the things you really want them to focus on?
I think to focus on, 1, the spirit of community, 2, the spirit of excellence, and 3, that spirit of entrepreneurship, trying those things that are not necessarily in your domain, those things that aren't necessarily something you might be good at, but something that you enjoy and that you want to share with others.
Sure.
I think one of the things that Joe did is that he was the face of many brands. I think even for a hot second there, he was doing ads for Jim Beam. And he was.
That's great.
He was selling soda. He was in the ads for milk. And so all of those things that, he wanted to embrace in terms of being a businessman and getting those things out into the greater community is important as well. I think he had a little club in his neighborhood called the Frog Club. Back during those times where, say that again?
I said, ooh, oh yeah. All right, go on.
Yeah, back in those times where not everyone had equal access to venues or facilities or experiences. He made those available. So
do they need a DJ? They need a DJ at all?
I don't know.
I'll do it.
Exactly. I would be at that club too. His ability to use his status and his stardom in a humble way to make opportunities available for others is something that many of us embrace now, but that we need to hold on to.
Sure.
As a humanity and as a culture.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. And I just, because it's just so important as to, not just the legacy of Joe Louis, but the continued legacy and how do we continue to share that community piece. I teach financial wellness on a daily basis, and it's all about being a focal point for financial wellness. So for Joe Louis to be a focal point for community, that's going to help get the brand out there that much more. Is that a good statement to say?
I think that's a good statement to say. And I think your background with financial wellness is also, an excellent segue too for those lessons learned, because in the great heart of hearts of wanting to help everybody, he was bigger than life. He wanted to do that, but there are limits to being able to do that.
Right.
So I think your perspective and background and your angle on that is a very important takeaway too with the story.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Jamie, so you're holding the bottle of Joe Louis bourbon in your hand, right? So on the back of the bottle, there is an homage to Joe Louis. Am I correct in that?
Yep. Yeah, there's a short little,
Yeah, it's a short little story about Joe Louis, and when you find the bottle in the store, please read it. Jamie, give him a little excerpt from there.
Oh, it's, it goes back to the story that you alluded to earlier. It talks about Joe Louis's mother gave him a quarter for violin lessons, and instead he used it to pay for boxing lessons, and ultimately he was able to compete in the Golden Gloves. And the boxing tournaments. It was her unintentional investment. It led him to become one of the modern history's most celebrated boxers and athletes. And it's really amazing that what was happening here in Detroit. We've investigated it on another podcast that I do called Detroit City of Champions, and we dedicated about 12 episodes, 12-hour-long episodes to just Joe's adventure. And to put that in perspective, we talked about the Tigers winning their first World Series in 1935 as well. And we did 5 episodes on the Tigers, on the whole team of the Tigers. So that's how intricate the story of Joe is.
How can we go back and view those episodes again?
It's called Detroit City of Champions. Yeah, and there's a playlist on YouTube. And you can, if you can find the Joe on YouTube, there's a playlist set up of just the Joe episodes, but. If you just skim through, and once we start talking about the boxing, because we laid the groundwork, it was interesting because Joe had a lot of challenges, and there was another pretty successful boxer before Joe, Jack Johnson, had that big campfire song hit Upside Down. No, different Jack Johnson. Different Jack Johnson. But there was a very successful boxer, Jack Johnson, who was another black boxer, and he was really just did things his own way. Yeah, and people were less, and I mean this was prior to the 20s. This was early 1900s, and people were less open-minded at the time. Yeah. People were jerks. Yeah. And they're like, well, we're never going to let a black guy do that again. Yeah. And so that set up even more boundaries, more barriers for Joe as he tried to do what he was doing. That was just be successful at something that he loved to do, which was boxing. Yeah. Just an amazing. So we do some of the background of the boxers and the things that fell into play, and like why he didn't win the championship in 1935 because he was supposed to have a championship bout. And that kid from the Beverly Hillbillies. Oh, no, wait. Max Baer. Actually, it was his dad, though. But the Daniel Bodine, his dad was Max Baer, the boxer. And Joe was supposed to face him for the heavyweight in 35. Right. But before that fight happened, Baer lost because he was like a character. He was like just a goof. And there was a fight, and he lost the belt before Joe got to fight him. So it took another couple of years for the fights to situate themselves and for Joe to get a shot at the belt.
And in that time,
crazy town.
In that time, Joe had went and served in World War II.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
During that time, and just was a morale piece for the troops during World War II at the same time. So he just brings so much, to the table. Speaking of community.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right, exactly.
So, but yeah,
And especially during the times that we're in now, we sort of need that morale and moral compass as well.
absolutely. Yeah, so the Detroit City of Champions, go and see it, because there's a
And
it's a great story to listen to.
I can be immodest about it because it's not me. I just hit record, and then Charles Avison wrote the books,
correct,
and tells me the stories, and I just sit there and I say dumb stuff occasionally, and
kind of like what should we do in the man cave?
Yeah, and then I hit stop at the end of it. It's all Charles and Charles information.
You are the brains
research
behind the operation. Jamie. Don't sell yourself too
yeah,
short.
So it's a phenomenal story.
Has Charles made any progress with the movie possibility or potentials?
Oh,
you know about that? All right.
Yeah, he wants to. Yeah, not yet. He's very possessive. He's been working on this for like 10 years.
Right, he should be.
And he's very possessive of his work.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to turn it over to someone else to. Because Tanya, you're familiar. You have some acting chops yourself, and you see how a script goes from probably when you first get it to when you do a table read to when you sit down and sit in front of a camera, how it morphs and changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the original writer doesn't always have so much control over that, and so he's very possessive of the story because he's so passionate about it, because there's such important stories. The Tigers, the Red Wings, the Lions, and Joe's story. They're all very, very important. Very, very important. Yeah. Oh my. They're very important stories they're underrepresented, misrepresented, misunderstood.
Right.
And he wants to make sure it gets done right. So, like Joe Louis Bourbon is getting it done right, and they're doing it right now at the Davis Valley Distillery, right? And Tanya, is that? Am I talking out of school by talking about that at all, or where we're at or where we're going?
So the juice is still the same.
Yeah.
We are looking at producing out of Kentucky soon.
All right. So that's what I didn't know. I didn't know if we could say that or not, because I knew we talked about that.
Yeah,
I'm like, it's like, are we allowed to talk about that?
But that's all relative.
Right.
Soon's not next month. Soon's not 6 months. But whenever we get to that point. So we definitely are looking forward to that. I've been to Louisville within the past few months, and I'm going back in April.
And you said it right. You said Louisville. You said it so right. Well done.
Did I say it right?
You did. You said it right. Well done.
You were like, you wanted a gotcha moment. But,
no, you said Louisville.
I read
you did. That's
the
great.
Tourist guides books, and they said now you're supposed to say it. But yeah, it's definitely a place where. We have to look outside of ourselves and our tenure at Joe Louis Bourbon, and how can we situate the brand to outlive us? And so being in Kentucky is definitely a place where it would need to be.
That's where the aging starts.
It's kind of where it happens. Although the Davis the Davis Valley is literally on the doorstep,
honestly,
and actually before it actually was part of Kentucky at one point.
Yes, it was.
Actually geographically, till those people got in there and just started rewriting maps just because they felt like it. They were gerrymandering the bourbon counties.
I draw the line here.
Yeah.
So. You cross it. Okay, you cross it. Cross this line, you die.
All right, that's it. That's it. It's okay. Yeah.
Cross this line, you die.
That's it. Fair play.
All right, that sounds familiar.
All right. So one-stop shop is for everything is just JoeLouisBourbon.com, right?
JoeLouisSpirits.com?
It is right now, unless you're in one of those states that we're distributing in. You want to keep a close eye on that Facebook page as well, and the Instagram and the Twitter pages. We're giving lots of updates on that. We've got a phenomenal social team as well as a marketing team that works daily to get information out, insight out, news out.
Okay.
So that you all can join us on the journey as we relaunch Joe Louis Bourbon and Joe Louis Spirits.
Fantastic.
So, because all right, JoeLewisSpirits.com, and I follow all the crazy business on the socials.
Yeah.
And there was a fun recipe, you guys. So you're pushing out cool stuff. There's the information, but there's also things that people can use. I think it was a pretty cool old fashioned recipe.
There's a bourbon punch that's out there. Yeah.
What I found interesting about the old fashioned recipe. It called for both an orange peel and a lemon peel.
I'm looking at it right now. It's 2 ounces of the Joe Louis bourbon, a quarter to a half ounce of the rich simple syrup, if you will. They put that to taste. A little more, a little less, whatever your bitters. Bitterman's habanero type deal.
Right.
Really depict that and that lemon peel garnish.
Right. So I thought that was interesting because normally it's always orange,
right.
but this was both, calling for both
orange.
a lemon and an orange, and I thought that was really, really fun. And I'm like, and I went over to the fridge and I'm like, I don't have a lemon. I had all the other fixins.
In some of our reviews, they've noted that, I know that you noted sort of the caramel notes, but others are noticing a lot of citrus notes. And so it's not surprising that maybe a lemon and orange are introduced if that's what you're picking up with nosing and or your palate.
Nice.
So yeah, I think it might. It might bring out more of a unique body.
The Joe Louis Bourbon Punch actually in the recipe, it actually calls for 0.5 ounce parts of Jamaican dark rum or Bacardi Black to add to it. So it's on that Joe Louis Punch.
Tanya, do you know who is coming up with the recipes that are on the website?
I would imagine that it's probably Michael that's coming up with some of those. And then from our audience as well, that's
finding them and then making a Joe twist on it.
Well, there's another...
And we are hoping that through Man Cave Happy Hour 2, that you all will be willing to share some recipes as well for your guests.
Yep.
We're also working with a few bartenders in and amongst the states that we are either distributing through or live in locally to come up with some curated cocktails and recipes as well.
One of the links in your website is share your recipe.
Oh, okay.
So it's
cool.
You use the Joe Louis bourbon, but you create your own recipe and you can share it right to the website. That's actually very, very cool.
I like it.
I think we're gonna have to put the Man Cave recipe on there. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I say recipe. It's recipe.
Recipe.
Yes.
Okay.
Fair enough.
All right.
We're getting goofy.
Yeah. Tanya, anything else that we need to cover about the Joe?
We'll just be on the lookout, and if you don't have it, then you need to buy it.
Fair.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
If you don't have it, you need to buy it.
Good.
Wonderful. Tanya, thanks for hanging out tonight. And we're going to do it all again. Like, subscribe, leave a comment.
Yes.
And here's the most important thing that you could possibly do. A huge, massive, colossal favor. Tell about 10,000 of your friends.
Just a couple.
Or just one.
Just one.
Or
and they'll tell 10 people.
Or just one.
They'll tell 10 people.
Tell them about the Man Cave Happy Hour. Tell them about Making of Champions.
Yes.
The podcast. And tell them about Joe Louis Bourbon.
Yes, please.
JoeLewisSpirits.com.
Yes.
And we're going to do this again very, very soon. We appreciate you. And till next time, cheers.
Cheers. Tanya, thank you.
Thank you.